So former Minnesota governor, pro wrestler, and Navy SEAL Jesse Ventura is back in the news these days because he endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris for president. And I remember Jesse Ventura back when I was growing up because I was a pro wrestling fan. On wrestling, he was Jesse the Body Ventura. And when I was watching in the 80s as a kid, he used to sit alongside Gorilla Monsoon and provide color commentary. And what color commentary was back in those days, the guy like Ventura would sit there and try to find a way to justify the bad guy's behavior. He would really get under Gorilla Monsoon's skin because if he saw a bad guy breaking the rules, he would try to gaslight the audience and tell the audience that they really didn't see what they think they saw. And he was absolutely perfect in that role, in that bad guy role on the commentary team. And that's fine if it's pro wrestling. That's fine if it's WWE and that's the show you're putting on. Jesse the Body Ventura nailed that stuff to the wall. But Donald Trump didn't get the memo that, hey, you know what, leave that in the WWE. He brought that rhetoric into the political spectrum, and now it is the absolute centerpiece of what MAGA is. It is the foundation in which MAGA is built upon, is that pro wrestling villain, that color commentary style of rhetoric where we try to gaslight you into not believing what it was that you just saw. I'm glad that Jesse Ventura left that act in the commentator booth. And I'm glad today he's out there calling out Donald Trump for what he is. And I'm glad to see he's on the side of Harris and Walz. Now, I'm going to say this up front. I've not always agreed with Jesse Ventura. He said some pretty far out shit in this world. But even as far out as he's went on certain issues, he still sees through the danger of Donald Trump and still sees him for the hypocrite that he is. And I absolutely love this next clip. Take a look.
Is the Trump of today the same man you once befriended? And how do you think this election will play out?
I will answer that with no. He is not the guy that came to me back in '98 after I won. Back then, he was much more liberal, but you need to understand, Donald Trump is for Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is going to do whatever it is that supports Donald Trump. So he looked the situation over. He obviously saw that he could take over the Republican Party. So he changed his views. You know, he went from pro-choice now to, no rights for women's reproductive. He's gone far right. He's trying to say he's now a religious person. Well, to me, if you're going to be a religious person, you have to live it. And Donald Trump hardly lives it. I mean, he's had multiple wives. I often laugh and think, what would the Republicans have said if Barack Obama would have had multiple wives and multiple children and ran for president like Donald Trump? What would the Republican response be to that? It would have been horrifying to see what Republicans would have said if that would have been Barack Obama. And yet they'll embrace a Donald Trump who he's Reverend, I'm an agnostic atheist, and I think that I'm more religious than he is.
Wow, that's quite a statement.
You see, folks, I'm agnostic, and I myself have said many times, I'm more religious than Donald Trump. I care more about the teachings of Jesus than he does. I get more offended at the fact that he bastardizes the teachings of Jesus than a lot of the evangelicals out there who thump their chest about it. I know so many of my friends who are atheists and agnostics, and they're some of the best people you could ever know, and they're always there for you, and they always treat people the way people should be treated. I go back to the verse in the Bible where it says, not everyone that says, Lord, Lord, will enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that does the will of my Father. I know atheists and agnostics that live closer to the teachings of Jesus than the evangelicals who are out there backing Trump. And I'm not saying this about every Christian or every churchgoer out there. I know plenty of people, got plenty of friends who are Christians. They're some of the best people you could ever ask for, and they're offended that Donald Trump is representing them. And they're always saying to me, Brando, don't judge all of us because of him. Come back to church. Come hang out with us because we're not all that way. So I'm with Ventura on this one. If you're going to preach that stuff, live it. And you don't have, and by living it, I don't mean invite me to church. By living it, I don't mean wear it on your sleeve. By living it, I don't mean wave a flag in the air. I mean follow the teachings of Jesus, help those in need, do good to others, treat others as you would like to be treated, and don't try to force stuff on other people. Don't try to force your beliefs on other people. If you do that, I'm never going to say a word about it. I'm never going to protest. I'm never going to say anything. The only thing I've ever called out is hypocrisy, and I've also called out when people use their religion to try to control people they disagree with or hated. That's the only thing I've ever had a problem with. So when I sit back and see Donald Trump and I see him clearly not living it, it doesn't matter to me if he stands up there and says, I'm a Christian. It doesn't matter because he's not living it. He's not reflecting it. And to anyone out there who says, oh, well, he became a Christian, listen, go study the Bible. Read about the people that Jesus forgave. Anytime he forgave someone and welcomed them into the fold, he would say to them, now go and sin no more. So for those of you out there that wants to compare Trump to King David or the Apostle Paul, when those men began doing the works of the Lord, they stopped being assholes. They stopped being murderers. They stopped being villains. And they became the good guy in the story. And the Apostle Paul went to his death for his beliefs. So you can't compare the two. Donald Trump is not living it. He's not reflecting it at all. And that's why so many of us have a problem with it. And that's why so many of us have walked away from the church, is because I'm not going to sit there and be guilty by association. I cannot separate the two, folks. I can't say to you, oh, I'm just going to go for the fellowship. I'm just going to go for to meet new friends. I can't do that if that minister is up there on a right-wing rant. I can't do that if he's up there telling me Donald Trump has been called by God and comparing him to King David. I'm not going to sit there and entertain that. So when Donald Trump actually starts living this stuff, you'll see me have a completely, I would say, hey, you know what? He's living it now. He's doing the right thing, but he wouldn't be able to live it. Here's the kicker. He wouldn't be able to live it because if he did, his base would turn on him. They love him because he's cruel. They love him because he's filled with hate. They love him because he empowers their hate. So if Donald Trump truly did have some sort of come to Jesus moment and came out and said, you know what, folks, I forgive Joe Biden. I forgive Kamala Harris. They're my brother and sister. I want to work alongside them. I don't care who gets the credit. Let's just all be good to each other. Let's all treat each other well. Maga would turn on him. They wouldn't want to be around him. That's probably the only way he could ever truly lose them, because they love the fact that someone finally gave a voice to their hatred. And that's what is so sad about all of this. You know, I don't agree with Jesse Ventura on everything he says, and politics does make for strange bedfellows, but here we are now, and I'm sitting there going, yeah, you know, he's got a point. There's atheists and agnostics out there that are more religious and care more about religion and care more about living a good life than the people who thump their chest and shout the loudest. This world has gotten so backwards. Everything has gotten so confused. And people that did... Trump not only, I said this all the time, that he ushered in people that knew nothing about politics into the political arena. He also ushered in people into religion that knew nothing about it and weren't living it. And I really believe the only way he could ever truly lose them is if he really did give his heart to Christ.